Okay, it is Wednesday and we're ready for another day of ELA. And so we're going to start off today looking at these two words, homographs and homophones. Notice they both have the HOMO, the homo. That means the same. Homographs means the words that are spelled the same. Graphs, think graph is you write something. Phone is you say something in a phone, right? You graph something when you write it, you say something in a phone. So how it's written, homographs are words that are written the same, and homophones are words that sound the same. So let's look at the official definition here. A homograph is a word that has more than one meaning and or pronunciation, such as the word subject or subject. So here's two examples right here. These words, they're spelled exactly the same. They're written exactly the same, but you say them differently and they mean different things. For example, she took a bow at the end of her performance. He used a bow and arrow to shoot the target. Bow, bow, but they're spelled exactly the same way. So we call these words homographs. Homographs. They look the same, they're written the same, but you say them differently. Bow and bow. How do you know which is which? Well, how it's used in the sentence. How did I know to say bow instead of bow here? Because I read you wouldn't use a bow and arrow to shoot a target. You would use a bow and arrow. And you wouldn't take a bow at the end of your performance. You would take a bow. So it's those context clues we've been talking about to know how to read the word. And a homophone are words that sound exactly the same. They're pronounced the same as another word, but has a different meaning or spelling, like the words no and no. The examples here are, I need a cup of flour to bake a cake, or my favorite flower is the daisy. These words, you say them the same. They're not like bow and bow. You say them exactly the same, but they're spelled differently. Flour, flower. This kind of flour is the kind you bake with, and this kind is the kind that grows and produces seeds like we've been studying in science. Okay? So these are homophones. You talk on the phone. You say these words the same. Okay? So just remember that. It helps you when you're reading to know these words, that some words, even though they're spelled differently, you say them differently. Or spelled the same, rather, you say them differently. Or if you spell differently, sometimes you say them the same. Homophones and homographs. You know, there's one in our spelling list, isn't there? It's a homograph. It's record. You could say record, or you could say record. They're spelled exactly the same. Well, we're going to get into our story today. And as we look at our vocabulary, let's look at some pictures. And there's a lot of vocabulary this week. So we'll take some time today and review it. And you'll have your vocabulary test on Friday. So this word is elegant. Here's a beautiful bride. Someone or something that is elegant, is stylish, and pleasant to look at. There's an elegant bride. And the next word was foreboding. Driving into those clouds, you're thinking, uh-oh, it's probably going to rain on me. It's probably going to storm. Foreboding means something, it's suggesting that something bad is going to happen. Foreboding clouds means it might be storming ahead. The third word is episode. An episode is an event or period of time that's important in some way. Okay, the day they broke the school record for tennis was the most memorable episode in their lives so far. So it's an event that they remember very well. It was important because they broke a record. Okay, moving on. Oh, scowled. Looks like an emoji, doesn't he? Scowled, you frown, or you have an angry look on your face. Scowled. This word, intimidated. Now, if I was sitting in front of that guy right there, I'd feel intimidated. That means to feel afraid of someone or something. He could chop me pretty good with those big old teeth, big jaw there. Intimidated, to feel afraid of something or someone. Subdued. Something that's subdued is quiet and low key. The little baby there is subdued. I think it's sleeping. Mama finally gets to talk on the phone. Baby's not crying, so nice. It's nice and quiet and low key. Disheveled. Does that look like your bedroom? If something's disheveled, it's not neat or tidy. If you have a disheveled bedroom, then you need to go pick it up. Make your parents proud today. They'll be like, you're not even at school. You're at home. Keep your bedroom neat. Disheveled is messy. Rigid. Rigid means something that's rigid and it's stiff. It doesn't bend easy. So this athlete here is holding her legs out. Her legs are rigid. She's holding them straight so they're not bent. The correct form for the balance beam there, or saddle horse, whatever those things are called. Feisty. Feisty is someone who's bold and energetic and determined. Look like these soccer players are feisty. They're ready to win the game. Sulked. This little girl is sulking. She wanted to go outside and play. You sulked, you're crabby because you were annoyed or disappointed about something. And I think that's it. Timid, I don't think that was one of our words this time. We'll get to that word later. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on now. And I want us to think about point of view for just a minute. Point of view, we've reviewed this before, but let's talk about it again. Point of view means who's telling the story. You can either have a first-person point of view where the narrator is part of the story. Story told in first-person point of view has a character in the story as the narrator. So somebody in the story, a character in the story is telling the story. Readers learn about other characters from what they say to the narrator. So you would have words like I and we, me, those pronouns we've been studying this week. You would have those kind of pronouns, those personal pronouns. Talking about I and me, like the person in the story would be in a first person, but third person, the narrator is outside of the story. They're telling about the characters. She did it. He, she, they. A story told in third person point of view has an outside narrator. The narrator can tell readers what all the characters are saying, doing, and thinking. First person, third person. Let's take a look at a page in our story for the week. And let's decide if our story is first person or third person. Frederick, maybe something awful has happened to Pennyfeather, Ella said, sounding a bit too excited by the prospect. We should check into it. Come on, let's go. We need to figure out the last person to see him. Let's start by asking at the gate. Oh, I'm sure it's nothing so dramatic, Frederick said quickly. The only thing he had a harder time imagining than a crime occurring within the palace was himself investigating a crime. Okay, so let's look at these words here. Do we see words that the character, or is the character in the story telling the story? No, we have a narrator who's telling what Ella and Frederick are saying. They're telling us, they're narrating the story to us, telling us what Frederick and Ella are saying. Now, this word, now that I'm free, I want to have new experiences. But that's the narrator telling us, that's she asked, that she's saying that Ella is saying that. It's not Ella telling the story herself. It's the narrator telling us what she said. So let's go back and look at this point of view. Okay, is it first person, you think? Is it I, we, me? Or is our story third person, the narrator telling what all the characters are saying? Our story's third person this week, isn't it? The narrator is not in the story himself. It's in third person, someone else telling the story about what the characters are doing. Speaking of our story, you need to read it today. It starts on page 244 in your reading book. I want you to read it to your parent or your guardian, whoever you live with today. If your grandmother, read it to your grandmother. I want you to read it to a person today, though, not your stuffed animals or doggy today. Read it to a person. I think they'll enjoy this story. They'll enjoy you reading to them, I know. So read this story to somebody today so that you can hear it again. Try to read with a lot of expression. Try to use that visualizing, like you girls, you might want to pretend like you're Ella and you're so tired of being with a boring guy and you want to do something exciting and go on an adventure. Maybe you guys can be a preppy prince and read like Frederick and be very proper and fancy when you read. Read with expression when you practice, okay? Last thing I want to look at before I let you get to work on reading the story is I want to look at some personal pronouns, possessive pronouns today. So you're going to have these 10 sentences today, and I'll give you some examples, some choices to choose from. Possessive pronouns are other pronouns that mean something belongs to you or somebody. So for example, here's the first answer. Did you finish blank homework? Would you finish his homework? Would you finish somebody else's homework? You better not. You would finish your homework. So your would be a possessive pronoun. That's something that belongs to you. Eduardo is looking for, he'd be looking for his backpack, right? So his is a possessive pronoun. So we're changing from he and him to his, her, yours, mine. Okay? So you're going to have some possessive pronouns to choose from today in your assignment. So the two things I want for you to do for me today, first off, I want you to go back and read Prince Charming Misplaces His Bride. Do that right now. I want you, as soon as I finish talking, read the story. There's a video on pronouns next. You probably need to watch before you start reading. After you've watched that video on pronouns, then go do your pronoun assignment, okay? I got the hiccups all of a sudden at the end of me recording. All right, well, watch the video on pronouns, possessive pronouns, and then go read your story and then do your assignment, and I'll talk to you later.